At the beginning of the film, 3 thieves sneak into the moors. They want to kidnap the mushroom spirit in the forest. One thief sits down so another can climb up. He sees the mushroom spirit sleeping in a tree hollow. He reaches in to grab the others who try to escape. Only one little one is fast asleep, unaware. He almost gets caught. The little one bites his hand and runs away. The thief chases after him. He follows the mushroom spirit into a strange flower garden. It glows mysteriously. He lunges forward and catches the little mushroom. He looks up and sees something odd, quickly plucking a flower. At this moment, the 2 teammates are waiting at the old spot. They have been ensnared and killed by vines. He hears their screams. He runs back to the kingdom. He hands over the mushroom and the flower to the trader. He receives 2 coins. 5 years have passed. Ayuza now is the queen of the moors. One beautiful morning, as usual, the spirits in the forest eagerly wake up. At this moment, 3 fairies fly in. In their hands is the hedgehog imp, Pinto. Suddenly, he jumps up. He snatches the princess's crown and rolls away. She chases after him, but Pinto still won't give it back. The forest spirits also help the hedgehog imp tease the queen. Eventually, they make her fall into the water. Aurora gets angry. She continues to chase Pinto into a large willow tree. Philip unexpectedly steps out. He kneels before the princess. He expresses the most romantic proposal. She has been waiting for this moment. Overjoyed, she immediately nods in agreement. Diaval in the tree sees everything. He quickly flies up the cliff to inform the dark fairy. He does not forget to remind her to stay calm. But how can she be calm? She immediately flies off to find Aurora. In the kingdom of Ulstead, the king is very fond of peace. But his wife, Queen Ingrith, supports war. She holds a crossbow in her hand. Loving it, she aims at everyone around, despite her husband trying to stop her. At this moment, Philip returns with the news that Aurora has agreed. The king is pleased, but the queen does not feel the same. She smiles reluctantly and embraces him, then tells Philip to invite the princess and the fairy godmother to the dinner tonight. Maleficent flies to meet Aurora. She says that love rarely ends well. Humans are untrustworthy. But the young princess has already fallen in love. Aurora has decided to marry the prince, and she asks her to accompany her to the boys' home for the party tonight. Seeing her daughter happy, the dark fairy finally agrees. She is quite thoughtful. Practicing in front of Maleficent, she looks down at the water. Following Diaval's instructions, she adjusts her facial expression to appear friendly. She wants to behave well toward her daughter. But the little princess is very thoughtless. She brings a piece of black cloth, telling her mother to cover her horns, afraid that her in-laws would be displeased. Meanwhile, Queen Ingrith secretly goes to the wardrobe. She turns the head of a mannequin, revealing a hidden chamber. Descending below ground is the workshop of the blacksmiths. Day and night, they forge weapons under the leadership of Gerda. She is the queen's right-hand woman. Ingrith even has a secret weapons research facility. It specializes in creating tools to kill the creatures of the moors. On the day of the banquet, Maleficent uses tree roots to create a bridge, leading to the kingdom of Ulstead. Then she crosses with her daughter Aurora and Diaval. In the human kingdom, they are frightened by legendary tales. Upon seeing the dark fairy, they scream and flee. Soldiers stand guard everywhere. The 3 enter the palace. Philip, along with the king and queen, comes to greet them. After greetings, everyone sits at the table as the music plays. However, the dish served is bird meat. Diaval glances at his mistress with concern. Maleficent looks at the iron plate, wondering if the queen is being intentional or accidental. During the banquet, Ingrith continually provokes the dark fairy. She mentions the death of King Stefan, the curse that put a child into a deep sleep. Maleficent is not one to back down. She brings up the fact that small creatures in the forest are continuously disappearing. At this moment, the queen tries to frame the Moors for the murder of 2 farmers a few days ago. Beside Diaval, a cat suddenly jumps up. The dark fairy uses just one finger to render it motionless in midair. Everyone around panics. Aurora pleads with her mother to put it down. The king advises the queen to behave gracefully. Philip tries to ease the tense atmosphere. The queen will talk about Aurora. She says from now on, the girl will have a real family. From today, the princess is her daughter. This officially makes Maleficent furious. She spreads her large wings. Her horns also reveal themselves. The torches in the palace all go out. Only the green magical fire remains. The soldiers rush in to protect her. They are all swept away by her wings. Aurora quickly tries to stop her mother. The dark fairy commands her daughter to follow her immediately. During the chaos, the queen hides behind the king. Suddenly, the king collapses, achieving her goal. Ingrith immediately blames it on Maleficent's curse. She quickly looks at her daughter, saying she did not do it. But unexpectedly, the princess believes outsiders' words. She no longer trusts her mother. She runs toward them, continuously accusing Maleficent. Disappointed and heartbroken, the dark fairy flaps her wings and flies away through the door. But Gerda has been waiting for her. She fires a steel bullet. It hits Maleficent in the side. Her magic scatters everywhere, falling freely into the river below. Inside the palace, the queen brings the king into a room. The prince tells her to kiss him. Who knows, true love might awaken the king. The queen hesitates but eventually complies. But of course, the king cannot awaken. Aurora blames herself. She decides to return to the moors to find her mother, and ask to lift the curse on the king. The princess arrives, but only the spirits are there. Maleficent has not returned. Diaval is also trapped in human form. She worries nothing for her mother. She only wants to lift the curse for her father-in-law. Hurrying back to the kingdom of Ulstead, The little hedgehog, Pinto, sneaks along behind her. Meanwhile, the dark fairy is swept away by the waterfall. She sinks into the deep sea. Fortunately, she is rescued by someone with black wings. They fly up from the water. The queen, upon learning that Maleficent is not dead, is extremely furious. When she realizes that Maleficent is not alone, she fears. She immediately orders all weapons and specially made steel bullets to be prepared for battle. That night, news of the dark fairy casting a curse on the king spreads throughout the kingdom. It enrages everyone. Maleficent wakes up in a giant bird's nest. Her right side is injured and bandaged. She looks around, not knowing where she is. Curiously, she enters a passage. Outside, it seems something is flying around. The dark fairy approaches a small hole leading downward. She spreads her wings to fly down. But since she is still injured, her wings are unstable and she crashes into the nest, falling down. Inside, there are voices. She goes deeper inside. She sees many beings with wings like her own. One of them holds a steel bullet in his hand. He believes it is time to fight for their freedom. But the leader, Connell, who also saved Maleficent, still respects peace. At this moment, Bora points at the dark fairy, saying her power will bring them victory. To prove this, he approaches to provoke Maleficent. He is immediately pushed back by her magic. Everyone watches, and begins to believe she is the key to their freedom. Everyone flaps their wings and flies away. Connell also invites Maleficent to see something. On the way, she sees many beings with wings of various colors. These are the last remaining individuals of the bird tribes. Not long ago, they flew freely everywhere, but now, they can only seek refuge in a cave. The origin of the dark fairies. Oppressed by humans, Maleficent sees a white-haired fairy teaching the little ones how to fly. One child falls straight down, but soon after, they can flap their wings and fly up. Instead of flying freely over rivers and streams, now they are confined here. She feels touched and says she will protect the children. Connell hopes to find a way without war. After experiencing numerous disappointments with humans, the dark fairy cannot quell her anger, and does not want to listen. After Aurora returns to the Ulstead Palace, the hedgehog sneaks inside. Unfortunately, he encounters a fat cat. Being chased, he falls into the research room of a little troll. The troll happily grabs a clamp to trap him in a glass box. The queen waits for the princess in the room. She speaks enticing words that make her feel guilty, and for the love of Philip, the princess agrees to marry. The next day, Gerda uses a loudspeaker to announce everywhere. In 3 days, there will be a wedding, inviting all the people from the moors to attend. Everyone in the forest hears this and is very joyful. Connell takes Maleficent to a place. Inside the rock wall is a phoenix fossil. That is the ancestor of the dark fairies. She is also the last descendant of the phoenix. Because Maleficent has raised a human girl, she has endured endless pain and found love. Thus, the dark fairy is the key to peace. At this moment, Bora brings news of the royal wedding. Despite his brother's opinion, he will form a team to attack the castle, to kill the queen and the prince, to destroy their kingdom. In Ulstead, the princess has made a simple wedding dress by the fairies. Beautiful, with butterflies flying around. She happily shows it to her future mother-in-law. But, the queen insists she must wear the tight wedding dress she wore before. In the palace, Aurora only hears bad things about her fairy mother. They always say she is the wicked one who imprisoned her. It was Philip who saved her life. That night, the princess looks toward the moors, remembering her promise to Maleficent 56 years ago. Seeing his wife troubled, the prince comes over to comfort her. Aurora tells him she is very tired of the rules here. Philip tells her she doesn't need to change. The woman he loves is a princess from the forest. At this time, the little troll in the basement is mixing flower petals with iron powder. It can create a dust that easily eliminates fairies. Ingrith hears this and asks to try it out. The troll catches a dandelion spirit. He sprinkles some dust on it. The spirit instantly vanishes, leaving only the dandelion itself. The queen happily holds the flower and blows it away. She orders the soldiers to invade the moors and harvest all the flower petals to make the potion. The dark fairy, Maleficent, is in a cave watching everyone dance. A little girl comes to give her a twig. Suddenly, she senses something. The twig in her hand withers and falls. Maleficent immediately flies away. She returns to the moors, standing on a nearby branch, looking down to see only a few withered flowers left. Bora arrives. He tells her it's time she should live for herself, instead of thinking for the wicked humans. Unexpectedly, the soldiers are waiting below. They shoot up steel bullets. Maleficent does not react in time. Fortunately, Connell flies in to shield her from the bullets. Both of them fall below. Maleficent uses her magic, creating a protective barrier of vines around them. Bora takes advantage of the moment while they're loading their weapons, and flies down, fanning them away. Maleficent also commands vines to grow everywhere, wrapping around them. Bora swoops down and grabs 2 of them, tossing them into the air. Then he dives down to strike another. Screams echo throughout the forest. The next morning, the princess hears the noise and looks outside. Below, the fairy creatures of the moors are all crossing the river into Ulstead. Fragrant flowers and strange grasses flutter in the air. The tall and handsome tree people, the mushrooms and the pig-nosed creatures are also excited to attend their queen's wedding. But the army is lined up to prevent humans from entering. Only the creatures of the moors are allowed in. Diaval, trapped in human form, is also stopped. He decides to climb over the wall. Outside, there is a knock on the door. The prince comes to see Aurora, handing her a flower. He says he got it from his mother. Why does the queen have a flower? Aurora finds this strange and sneaks outside to investigate. She goes to the costume room. After looking around, she sees a mannequin with its head turned askew. The princess reaches out to adjust it. Suddenly, a passage opens beside her. She looks at the thorny scar on her finger, remembering the past but still goes down. The princess arrives at a laboratory and sees a spindle inside. Aurora seems entranced. Ignoring the dwarf's warnings, she reaches her finger toward the spindle. Suddenly, an image appears before her. The queen stabbing the king with the spindle. Now she understands everything. The princess sees the little fairies being captured and questions the dwarf. Accidentally, she sees the scar on his back. Aurora tells him the queen cut off his wings. They both need to release the fairies. But the queen has arrived. She says that the Moors killed her brother. But the princess no longer believes her. She is locked up by Ingrith. In the dark fairy territory, leader Connell is severely injured. His brother Bora, filled with hatred, declares war. In the wedding hall, the creatures of the Moors wait but do not see the human guests. At this moment, the queen orders the music to play. Gerda presses a button that releases red dust. A tree person, unaware, raises his hand to touch it. He instantly turns back into a regular tree. The fairies scream and flee, but the doors are locked. The princess thinks quickly, tears her wedding dress to create a distraction. She makes the soldiers rush in. Then she escapes through a door, being chased. She grabs a rope that is tied above and swings down to the lower floor. She crashes inside. Fortunately, Philip catches her. Aurora tells him the whole truth. The prince cannot believe it. She rushes to lift the king's hand to show the wound from the spindle that is identical to hers. Philip is shocked. He cannot fathom why his mother would want to harm his father. Meanwhile, Connell, before dying, passes on the memories and leadership to Maleficent. Bora leads the army flying in from the sea. The soldiers see the large numbers and feel a bit scared. But the queen remains calm, waiting for them to approach at a certain distance. She orders them to fire. The army fires a barrage of red dust bullets. The bird people who are unfortunate enough to get hit are all turned to smoke. The damage is immense. Bora is ambushed and quickly orders everyone to retreat. They split into two flanks, flying low to attack from below the castle walls. Ingrith has prepared thoroughly, ordering the ignition of balloons filled with red dust. The balloons explode, scattering red dust everywhere. Some fairies do not have time to evade and perish instantly. Some manage to escape, grabbing soldiers and throwing them down. At the same time, they use ropes and nets to capture some fairies. Aurora runs through the battlefield to the wedding hall, but the door is blocked and she cannot open it. At this moment, Dieval also arrives and they both try to open the door. Inside the wedding hall, the tree people crash into the door. Gerda releases red dust. He rushes over to protect the three fairies, transforming into a green tree. Above the castle, the general, by orders, fires the red dust back inside. Despite the citizens in the city fearing and fleeing, a building is about to collapse. The fairy with white wings sees this. Ignoring the conflict between the two races, she flies down to save the children below. Philip runs to confront his mother, but she orders him to be locked up. The prince then pulls a lever on a balloon, jumping down to the ground. The general follows him. Both fall down, continuing to struggle. Bora, flying above, sees this, and swoops down to take out the general. Inside the wedding hall, it is filled with red dust. Seeing the situation deteriorating, the green fairy sacrifices herself to destroy the harp. Gerda angrily climbs up, wanting to fix it. The two fairies, resentful, fly over to poke her, making her fall from the balcony. Outside the door, the soldiers come to capture Aurora, using force against Dieval. Suddenly, his hand turns black, slowly transforming into a giant crow bear. He throws the soldiers away. At that moment, the sky is illuminated with blue flashes. Maleficent descends from the sky, swinging her arms to dispel the entire army. The princess sees her fairy mother, feeling both joy and sorrow. Maleficent also looks at her. Before flying off to fight, she uses both hands to channel her magic, and shoots at the towers, destroying the red dust machines. Then she flies to the next tower, cutting the ropes to free a fairy. Meanwhile, in the basement, the little troll remembers Ojose's words. He frees the little fairies above in the wedding hall. Dieval uses his bear strength to break down the door to rescue everyone. The princess leads everyone to escape. The general sits up from the ground, grabbing a bow and arrow nearby to shoot Bora down. He angrily stands up, using his wings to knock the crossbow away. Wanting to kill the general, Philip rushes in from the side, pointing his sword at Bora to stop him, the blade burning his neck. Finally, the prince lowers his sword. Bora begins to change his mind about humans. He flaps his wings and flies up. Philip and the general order the soldiers to cease fire. Maleficent finds the queen, who is also waiting for her. At this moment, Ingrith still tries to provoke the dark fairy, wanting her to completely become the witch. As the rumors say, unexpectedly, Aurora runs in. She stops her mother, apologizing to Maleficent. She tells her to calm down. The dark fairy tells her what does she understand. She heartbreakingly replies that she understands, because she is her mother. These words awakened the love in Maleficent's heart. But an arrow was shot. The dark fairy spun around to deflect it, but the arrow was laced with red dust. She turned to ashes. Aurora, heartbroken, screamed. She collapsed to the ground. Tears streamed down onto the pile of ashes. Ingrith thought she had succeeded, but the tears of love once again revived. Maleficent in the form of a black phoenix. She radiated colorful flames, immensely large and beautiful. Terrified, Ingrith pushed the princess down the stairs and fled, but she didn't get far. Before being captured by the bird clan, the phoenix swoops down to catch Aurora, embracing her as they glide down. Everyone quickly surrounds them, as from the ruins, the phoenix flaps its wings to rise. Then it transforms back into Maleficent, greeting her daughter. The princess joyfully runs to her and the two embrace tightly. Diaval is also happy to see his mistress again. Maleficent asks Philip if he still wants to marry her daughter. His answer: of course, he does. At this time, the little troll has also turned over a new leaf, bringing the spindle that contains the curse. The dark fairy throws it into the sky, turning it to ashes. The spindle in the basement also permanently disappears. The prince declares an end to the war, forming an alliance between the two races. Aurora joyfully invites everyone to stay for her wedding. Fragrant flowers and strange grasses grow everywhere, covering the ruins, soothing everyone's losses. The king has also awakened. He comes to the balcony and sees a blooming flower, with a fairy inside. What he wished for can finally come true. The wicked queen is transformed into a white goat. Maleficent heals Aurora, and makes her a stunning gown. She takes the princess's hand into the hall to give her to the prince. Diaval is like a father marrying off his daughter for the first time. Wiping away tears, the dark fairy reminds him, and then wipes her own tears. Both place the grass rings on each other, and share a passionate kiss. Amid the blessings of everyone, the couple stands on the castle, watching the sunrise. Maleficent comes to greet them. Then she spreads her powerful wings, gliding over the cliffs, with the bird children soaring high into the sky. The movie ends here.